SpaceX is working around the clock to prepare for the first orbital Starship flight test. During the debut orbital flight attempt, the Super Heavy Booster 4 will push the Starship SN-20 into Earth orbit, from southern Texas. On October 21, Starship 20 performed a series of 2 static fires in one evening. After a single-engine static fire, the first test of this kind of a Raptor vacuum engine on a vehicle, and a 2-engine test with 1 Raptor sea level and 1 Raptor vacuum engine involved. SpaceX achieved a new milestone on Friday, November 12. The company briefly ignited all of Starship's Raptor engines for the first time, during a static fire test at Starbase in South Texas. The stainless steel SN-20 spacecraft prototype is equipped with 3 vacuum-optimized Raptor, designed for propulsion in outer space, and 3 sea-level Raptor engines designed for atmospheric flight. During Starship 20 static fire in the final second, we saw the deluge system of the pad start at about 30 seconds. This water suppression system is used to provide acoustic protection for the ground equipment in the vehicle. While the first test of S-20 followed this predictable and usual behavior, the second test, about an hour after the first one, was odd in its pattern. After the first ignition, the vehicle never detanked, but rather entered a hold state, in which propellant was still inside the vehicle, but no new countdown was apparent to the spectators. Detanking is usually indicated by a long and sustained vent from the upper and lower vent of the vehicle, and a variety of vents in the tank farm. Another good indicator in the past was the old flare stack, which is not ignited anymore. In detanking, it emits a constant cloud of gas from the top. This is a difference from the previous day of multiple static fires, which was the triple static fire of SN9. In this, the vehicle started 3 separate countdown sequences and followed the order of recondenser, skirt vent, tri-vent, and ignition. In the recent test, it looked more like SpaceX held for a longer period of time without a complete countdown sequence. The ability to do this was demonstrated in flight test streams, as SpaceX Mission Control had multiple holds in the countdown, which can be resumed after certain conditions are met. This is different from the kind of countdown SpaceX uses for Falcon 9. With that launch vehicle, a hold in propellant loading means a complete recycle of the countdown sequence. At this point, we don't know if this hold capability will stay for Starship in its operational phase, as both Falcon 9 and Starship deal with cryogenic propellants, which quickly heat up after a certain amount of time and leave the corridor of desired temperature and pressure for the engines. With 2 so different static fires, it again proves that the Starship countdown is evolving. We might see different indicators appear, or existing ones disappearing. However, with each test, we get closer to understanding this powerful rocket and the fueling mechanisms behind it. The difference between both engines is that R-Vac engines have a much larger nozzle. Compared to standard engines, the increased diameter improves efficiency in outer space environment. Raptors are a new kind of engine developed by SpaceX, fueled by cryogenic methalox, a combination of subcooled liquid methane propellant and liquid oxygen. Good static fire with all 6 engines. SpaceX founder Elon Musk shared via Twitter today. It marks the first time both variations of the Raptor are tested simultaneously, as the 160-foot-tall Starship remained grounded to the launch pad mount. SpaceX Starbase teams ignited the shiny spacecraft's engines at around 12:13 p.m. Central Time. This is a significant test ahead of Starship SN-20's first orbital flight test. The company is conducting pre-flight testing to ensure the spacecraft is ready to fly. During the first orbital flight attempt, engineers plan to launch a prototype of the Super Heavy rocket for the first time, Booster 4, to propel Starship SN-20 to orbit. The 230-foot-tall booster will also undergo similar testing with its 29 methane-fueled Raptor engines, that will produce over 16 million pounds of thrust. SpaceX has never tested over 29 Raptor engines, so it will be interesting to watch the rocket's upcoming test campaign. If Super Heavy Booster 4's testing goes well, it will lift off from the Boca Chica Beach launch pad to propel Starship SN-20 to orbit. As SN-20 continues its journey across Earth, Booster 4 will return with a propulsive soft water landing in the Gulf of Mexico. Starship SN-20 will land in the ocean off the northwest coast of Kauai, Hawaii. Starship and Super Heavy will weigh on the order of 300 metric tons, or around 675,000 pounds, when empty. Once filled to the brim with cryogenic liquid methane and liquid oxygen propellant and gas, though a two-stage Starship will easily weigh more than 5,000 tons, or 11 million pounds. Shortly before and after liftoff, further SpaceX wants to be able to launch at least 2 Starships from Boca Chica in rapid succession, to meet the staggering needs of back-to-back Starship launches. SpaceX has thus had to design and build what will be the world's largest launch pad tank farm. Work on the tank farm is already well underway, though progress has been slower than expected on these 2 flying vehicles, and have forgotten the presence of one part that can help SpaceX to ensure that flight, and SpaceX founder Elon Musk refers to the entire zone as Stage 0. Stage 0 includes all launch pad support structures, which include the launch tower, mounts propellant tanks, flame diverter system, among many other vital things surrounding the launch pad. The GSE propellant tank farm will be connected to propellant lines that lead to the launch mount and launch tower, where the Super Heavy Starship launch vehicle will lift off. In an interview with YouTube science communication blogger Tim Dodd, Everyday Astronaut, SpaceX founder Elon Musk said that they do not plan to recover the Starship SN20 during the first orbital flight for the first orbital launch. "Our goal is to get into orbit without exploding," Musk told Dodd. He also said that Stage 0 is much harder to build than a Starship launch vehicle, and that he hopes Super Heavy does not blow up on the launch site during the first orbital attempt. To be totally frank, if it takes off without blowing off the stand Stage 0, which is much harder to replace than the booster, that will be a victory, so please do not blow up on the stand, Musk said. Well, that's understandable, when SpaceX's CEO has repeatedly stated a desire to offload as many systems as possible onto the launch pad, so Stage 0 will be a sustainable connection for SpaceX to make future flights beyond Earth. The ambitious orbital test flight will enable SpaceX engineers to collect data to develop the launch system and improve concept of operations. The exact timeline for the debut orbital flight is still unknown, because the U.S. Federal Aviation Administration must complete an environmental assessment of the Starbase launch site. The regulatory agency is in charge of ensuring safe air traffic and spaceflight operations. In March 2021, CEO Elon Musk confirmed a report that SpaceX was working towards a target of July 2021 for Starship's first orbital launch attempt. At the time, it seemed undeniably ambitious but far from impossible to say when Starship S-20 and Super Heavy B-4 will be ready for their orbital launch debut, as that now lies almost solely in the hands of the FAA. Thanks for watching this video, and it's a super interesting topic. If you like this, make sure to subscribe. If you have any crazy ideas about what we should cover in next video, please comment it below, and we'll see if we can get to it. So thanks again for watching and goodbye.